Should I rent or buy a home in Seattle, Washington? That is the question. And a lot of the poor 20-something generation, what are you guys, Z, that I talk to, it's just like, OMG, I cannot figure out how to buy a property. It feels crazy. Everything is so crazy expensive here in Seattle. But I want to run some numbers. I want to get a little analytical. I want to tell you what's the what and who's the who, because this is something that you can do if you're willing to adjust your expectations a little bit. And I think it's a really good idea. Here's why. We're going to get into it real quick here. Just wanted to let you know my name is Emily. I'm a real estate agent in this area. I started buying property when I was in my 20s, like 22, I believe, was when I bought my first home back in North Carolina. Different market there. Don't worry. And then I've been an investor. I'm an agent. So if you want to do some of these things and you're not sure if you can, let's talk about it together before you write yourself off. Now, number one, the first thing that I want to point out is that everyone says you should buy a home, it's cheaper than renting. Absolutely not the case. I think those people might be TikTokers from like Missouri or something. And there are some markets still in the United States where you can pay a mortgage for less than renting out the house. But that is absolutely not the case here in Seattle. Here in Seattle, your rent for $1 million home is going to be cheaper than the mortgage payment for that $1 million home. And that's the same if you're doing like a house, a small house, a big house, even a condo in many cases. So if you want to make that change from renting to buying, you should anticipate that your monthly payment is going to go up. Okay, I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid and tell you that. Number two, you're going to need some kind of down payment, but I don't want you to freak out about this because it may not be as bad as you think. I actually had a client close a $300,000 two-bedroom, two-bath condo last month, and he had 20% down on his loan, but almost all of that 20% down was coming from down payment assistance programs that he was able to patch and piece together. So they're basically grants and loans that he's getting for being lower income, and he does not have to make a monthly payment on that. It doesn't add to his monthly cost. They will attach to the property, and when he sells the property or refinances the property, those will have to get paid back. But it's a great way to get into a property if you qualify. And Washington State is always doing more to try to help people get into homes. So if you think you could swing the monthly payment, but you don't know if you can swing the down payment, there are ways to help. What I would say for down payment expectations are like 3 to 5% down or 0% down if you're a veteran. Now, why in the heck would you want to do this in the first place? Why do you want to go from your nice, easy living in your rental to paying more, having more financial strain, having that burden of trying to get a mortgage and buy a house? Well, friends, maybe you don't. Maybe that's not for you. And here's why. If you don't plan on living in the Seattle area or holding on to this property for at least 5 years, then I don't think it's a safe bet. I never recommend anybody to buy a property if they feel like they're going to buy it this year and sell it the next. The numbers don't work out. Selling a property is fairly expensive. You're going to lose about 10% on transaction costs. So if you had like a $500,000 property, it might cost you $50,000 to sell it between taxes, commissions, fees, closing costs, blah, 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 blah. It all adds up. Repainting, recarpeting. It may not be that bad, but you should anticipate that type of figure in order to make a good plan and not get in over your head. The next thing is that you may not have the cash reserves or the financial wherewithal to weather the ups and downs. When you're renting a place, you know that you'll never have to pay more than the rent. Come hell and high water, that's the landlord's concern, not yours, right? But if you're the homeowner, that is your concern. If there's a flood, if the roof goes bad, if the furnace goes bad, any number of things can happen that are either expected or unexpected. We expect that we're going to have to replace the roof every 20 years. We're going to expect that we need to repaint and carpet and do those things as a homeowner to protect our asset. So you need to not only be able to make the monthly payment, but you need to be able to handle those types of things. If you're starting low, if you're at the point of entry of a condo, then what's going to happen if there's a special assessment or something like that, which can be a large unexpected bill. We need to find out about that. We need to protect you from that so you don't get stuck there having a problem. So those are two situations that you may not want to actually buy anything at all. And if that is your situation, I think you're doing the smart thing by staying out of a house, continuing to rent, and saving up your money. Hopefully, if you do have an eye on home purchase, but it's not right for you at this time, you're living below your means, saving up a lot of money because you're saving money each month because you're not paying so much on your monthly payment, that you should be putting that toward saving for your down payment. And then once you get into the house, you don't have to save for that line item anymore on your budget. You can put that monthly extra toward the mortgage. So if you're not sure if you can swing it, you're thinking about getting a house in the future, look at it that way. Say, I'm going to make a monthly payment that's equivalent to a house payment. Some of it's going to go to rent and some of it's going to go to saving up for the down payment on the house. That's the strategy I would use. Now you're going to say, gosh, Emily, you're making me bend over backwards, save all this money, looking forward to high expenses. Why in God's green earth would I ever want to do this? And I will tell you, real estate makes bank in Seattle. Boom, I just said it. I told you. The reason that real estate is so expensive here and it doesn't cash flow is because we have been going up and up and up and up and up for a long time. I remember when I was a baby, Jesus and I were in the cradle side by side. It was a long time ago. But when I was a baby, my parents actually owned an apartment building and it cash flowed, and they were able to like go in and clean out the apartments. They were telling me like, oh, we would bring your cradle and we would put you in there and then we would paint and refinish the floors. And I was just like, imagine how much smarter I would have been if you hadn't killed all of those brain cells when I was a youth. But they did, and here we are. It's what it is. I am what I am. But point is that those properties cash flowed 45 years ago. My dad sold that building and looked to get into another building, and he couldn't find other buildings where the numbers made sense. When I was in high school, I said, Dad, I've read all these books on your bookshelf about investing. I want to get into property. Sounds great. And he's like, you call those real estate agents and tell them that you want something that cash flows, and they'll laugh you out of the park. They won't even, show you anything because you have unrealistic expectations. And it's just become worse and worse. Ask them 10 years ago. The housing market is in a bubble. COVID came and went through the roof, right? Everything went up so much. I wish I would have bought those houses that were 300,000 and didn't cash flow are now 6,000 and 7,000 10 years later. So the key to all of this is that number one, we don't know if the appreciation will continue. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results, but the Seattle economy continues to be very strong. A lot of businesses here, a diversity of businesses here, a very constrained area as far as, a lot of water, not a lot of places to build houses. So it's a supply and demand issue. People want to be here for work. It's a tech hub. It's a hospital hub, universities, Boeing. So many big companies are here. Valve, right? Yeah, I know what that is. You want to be here, but where are you going to live? So you have to pay a lot in order to live here. And I don't see that changing. So the key then is you want to be on that appreciation train. If you can get your foot in the door, then we're going to see the wealth grow and grow over time, right? I bought my first house here about 15 years ago, at the worst time of the market. It was right before the 2008 market crash, right? So I bought it for like $289. And then I waited for 10 years and I sold it at a profit. And then I wish I hadn't sold it because now it's worth double, right? It's worth double what I paid for it. And you've heard all the stories, right? Your parents bought their house for $40,000, etc. The fact of the matter is, looking nationwide, and this is somewhat of a self-sorting statistic, so I'm throwing a big grain of salt in there, but people who renters, have an average net worth nationwide of $6,000. People who own homes have an average net worth of $250,000. Now, we admit, some of the renters might be very young, just starting the journey. A lot of the homeowners are going to be older, but a lot of the way that the homeowners build that wealth is through kind of forced appreciation, forced savings of having the home. A lot of Seattle millionaires have their $1 million in the house. That's where their equity is. That's where that $1 million is sitting. And then they have like some social security and some money and some pensions, but the bulk of their assets are in their house. And there's a product called a reverse mortgage, which allows them to tap into that. They can kind of use the home equity as a line of credit so that if they need money for like medical bills or travel or a monthly stipend, then they can pull out the equity without having to sell the home. So that's the reason I think you should buy. I think you want to look at the numbers, you want to be safe. I always recommend that you not get in over your head, that you be conservative, that you, after you buy the house, you still have money in the bank, you still have breathing room in your budget month to month. But if you want to build wealth, Seattle real estate is a fantastic way to do it if you can get in onto the ride and hang on. Thanks so much for watching. Emily Cressey, Home Pro Houses, and homeproassociates.com. I have both websites. Homeproassociates.com is a little more fun, a little more interactive, a little more videos. Homeprohouses.com has all the market, what's for sale, all the inventory. That's my IDX site. So take a look at both and let me know how I can help. Until then, I'll see you on the next video.